I'll I'll hit a record there.
Just said you're recording. Okay.
Well, I'm recording, yeah.
More. Where's the button? Record on this computer. Okay. Weird. I had to maximize the screen to see the option, but
Okay. Yeah. Zoom's
should
getting
be
weird like that,
recording.
where you have to stretch everything out to get information these days.
Oh, I hate
Yeah,
that.
I'm much more of a multiple things on the screen kind of a person. Maybe someday I'll get a second TV. We'll just have
What are
two
things I don't
55-inch
need?
TVs.
AI companion, don't need that. Summary, don't need that. Apps,
Hey,
don't
Brian,
need that.
Brian,
what's up?
hello.
Ah, Mr. Champion, my old friend. We meet
How's it
again at
going?
last.
All right.
You're going for the supervillain layer there, huh? Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
fun fact, I've started creating wacky backgrounds like this for Mission Log Live, but it's been forever since I've been on Mission Log Live, so I'm
Been
glad to
forever since
repurpose
we've
them
had
here.
Mission Log Live. But
I
hey, yeah, we knew a little while ago, but now that it's public that Disco will come back on April 4th, we're going to probably 3 weeks before that start doing live shows so we can recap Lower Decks and then lead into Disco, have some guests on, do stuff like that.
Who's your guest
So
hosts?
well, let's see. For Disco, we will have back. Wait, who's Holly's been doing Disco with us, right? Yeah.
It's been so long, I
I'm
forgot.
racking
Wait,
my brain.
Holly. Yeah, no, because Holly stuck around to do Picard. Yeah, I think that's right. Oh crap! Why am I getting a FaceTime audio call? Is that from one of you?
nope.
No.
I don't
You.
recognize the number, so I'm going to just cancel that.
I would never FaceTime somebody without clearing it in advance.
Well,
Like I have,
FaceTime audio. I don't mind
oh,
people
okay,
doing FaceTime audio calls
that's
because
fine.
those are better quality. But yeah,
We all
um,
have the one. I have one friend from high school who will just video call me out of nowhere, and
yeah,
the only time he
that's
ever tries to reach out, and then I will not accept, and then a couple minutes later, I'll be like, "Hey, sorry, I'm busy. Maybe we could talk some other time," and then he just never responds at all
yeah.
until the next just a video
How
chat
many
me.
people actually use? Oh, there we go.
I was
Nice.
feeling left out, so I thought
I
Oh
I'd
was
man.
invite some
considering that
friends over for
background.
dinner.
I was
Yeah,
considering that background too, but I was like, well, I got the flight suit. I guess I got to go with the Eagle cockpit.
absolutely.
Yeah, nice Eagle cockpit you got going there.
Yeah,
No green screen, so I guess, well, there goes my
nice.
hand into. I
It's
could have gone to
amazing we can
work.
do it without. I have to put up the green screen to make this work, but it
Well,
works better in Zoom than it does anywhere else.
I guess it's just
Yeah.
there's not much going on behind me, so that helps. But no, and we did the pandemic, and I was teaching on Zoom for like 3 months. I was going insane with the. We had actual green screens at the school as dividers, so I was,
Oh wow.
Oh,
having a time.
Cool.
Once or twice, I don't remember where I was teaching a class where I actually had the green screen like on my head or something, just so I could have a weird background, but the room wasn't situated right. So I don't know if that's the best way to teach a class or not, but
Mark's probably struggling to find a backdrop for himself now
Uh,
since he's
I
the odd
can't.
man out.
Yeah, I forget how to implement. But I used to be so fun and used to always have a background, and now I'm like, I forget how to do it. And
well,
I
your
used to
room's
always
too
have
busy.
video footage. I'd always have like video footage in the background of like worms or something, like something fun like that. Or there was one where it was just a carousel of potatoes that were
Something
slowly
vaguely
sprouting.
disquieting. Yes.
Yeah, it was fun because you watch the potatoes, and at first you're just like, oh, it's potatoes, and then you're like, wait a minute, they're sprouting. That's weird.
Hot dog factories, that's a good background,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
in motion. Infinite regresses, those are good.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the infinite regress. So
there's tons of stuff out there. But anyway, I'm just gonna stick with my regular evil lair,
right.
just my room.
Oh,
Uh,
John, while we got you on the horn, do look into nature and travel. I was definitely shooting those with
Yeah.
you in mind. With the it was the most mid-century place I've like ever been.
Oh
So,
hell yeah. Nice, nice. I'll give it a
That
look.
place looked cool. I'm sorry to hear it's not going to be around much longer,
yeah, the
apparently.
the theater was very cool too. But of course, that's where you just can't shoot. But inside there was like even more mid-century looking, like the way the ceiling was and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Very cool. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I haven't
quite
been
neat.
able to cruise through Discord in a little bit, but I will absolutely do so.
Well,
Doing this and then finish my writing for what's the episode? Unforgettable. I almost forgot. But yes, Unforgettable is what we're doing next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was like the one with all the duets in it. My God, I'm so bad with these. The Voyager titles are always so like they're always like one word.
oh no, it's
Yeah, one word titles are kind of
Yeah.
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 I
All
was
you
thinking
need
of
to know
virtuoso.
is all you need to know is Virginia Madsen. She
Oh,
is the one
oh
who is.
yes. Okay. Yep. Yep. Mhm.
Ironically, I remember that episode.
See, there you go. Well, she is memorable.
Right. Andrew Robinson directed that one. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
No,
Uh-huh.
it came to
Does she
mind for
say
me
things
first
like,
was Virtuoso, where the doctor becomes an opera singer.
Oh, that's
"Oh,
right.
Man,
Yeah, yeah,
there's some really good doctor stuff in there.
yeah.
Obviously,
And they have the guy that they programmed to do the insane scales and stuff that don't make any sense, like the new doctor or whatever. Anyway,
I mean,
that's the
yeah,
actor
that's the
there.
AI. They knew what AI was going to do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be like you look at a picture, you look at Taylor Swift, and she'll open her mouth, it'll be like just 100,000 a black midi coming out of her mouth.
so how many
Uh,
Dune jokes gonna make with Virginia Madsen?"
Go to it. Go to it.
Well, Mark, I guess if you want to get rolling, just put a little 5 second header and we'll rip roar.
will do. Welcome to Arcadia. Welcome to Podcast 1999, the podcast about Space 1999. I'm your host, Mark Malik.
I'm Matt Commages, going full names today.
Full
So I guess
names.
we'll continue going full names, I guess, where we got the man who we send the links to. He get Brian Clayton told him we're not inviting him as a guest anymore. We send him the links and he
I'm
goes,
just here.
he's just
I'm
here.
part of the
Brian Clayton is
furniture.
here.
He's here
Yep,
to finish the trivia that Mark misses.
indeed.
And
Counting on you.
coming back from the Mission Log podcast is John Champion back on the moon base. Howdy.
Yeah, glad to be here. I'm so glad that I get to be here on the show where Brian becomes like a permanent Alphan. He becomes a permanent member of the crew. That's exciting.
Indeed.
Thank you for letting me be
Indeed.
here.
You
I
get to
earned this
replace.
stripe. See this
You
stripe? I
did.
earned this.
Yeah,
Yes.
not fooling around here. Yeah.
Now, do you have a season 2 uniform as well?
No, I just
No,
these
okay.
shirts were Jerry Anderson's store was selling these shirts a year or two ago. I don't know if they still have them, but yeah, I
So,
grabbed some. I think Norman grabbed some too. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people grab some.
Yeah, you've appeared with a few different colors. I've noted.
so
Yeah, I
Brian,
don't have a white one or a brown one, but I do have the security purple, which I think that I wore that to STLV.
Yep.
purple's nice.
Yep. Love it.
Colors of Kings, yes. But yeah, the Testament of Arcadia. Mark, I assume this is your Bible, this testament.
Yes, of course. I believe in terrorist Adam and Eve.
That's a good way to put it. Do you believe in telling us trivia?
I do. This is the final episode that commenced production in season 1, but not the last one. Finished as per previous trivia. There were still scenes filmed after this for The Last Enemy and Space Brain, those scenes being the violent ones and the foamy ones. This episode was intended for release as the season finale, but since ITC had decided that The Last Enemy would be the finale because it was called The Last Enemy, this one was aired next to last. We have David Tomlin back directing. You last saw his work in The Infernal Machine, and this is his final contribution to Space 1999. Johnny Byrne gets the main writing credit, although he co-wrote this with the Andersons. You last saw his work on Mission of the Darians, and you get 3 from him next season, including the season opener, The Metamorph. The plot was initially conceived during a conversation between Byrne and Tomlin. They decided to tap into the 70s zeitgeist of the idea that humans originated from outer space. The budget was dwindling at this point, so the episode reuses an effects shot from Another Time, Another Place and doesn't have very many effects shots of its own. So it's notable that this is the last time in the series that we'll see 2 eagles docking in space. Sylvia Anderson recounted in a commentary, "We were trying to be kind of grown up. We were really just getting into our stride. In this episode, episode 24, it's probably a little slower than some of the other episodes, but quite profound. And as has come up in past trivia, Sylvia will no longer be involved with the show after this season. And with this episode, we also say goodbye to regular cast members Barry Morris as Victor Bergman, Prentice Hancock as Paul Morrow, Clifton Jones as David Cano, and Anton Phillips as Dr. Matthias. How or if they're written off the show, we'll get into with the second season opener. One point of trivia that I missed previously is that Robert Rieti has been dubbing dialogue for several characters this season. Basically, a lot of the Italian leads. Here he dubs Orso Maria Guarini. He dubbed Gianni Garco for Dragon's Domain and Giancarlo Priti on The Troubled Spirit. All roles were uncredited, but he'll be back to voice the Sphere in season 2. Rieti was born in 1923 and was discovered at age 8 by his father, Vittorio, who is a veteran actor. It's not as bad as it sounds. He discovered that Robert had memorized an entire script while helping Vittorio rehearse lines for a play. He had a lot of roles all over TV and film, interestingly, many times as an uncredited voiceover in films such as Dr. No, Lawrence of Arabia, and 2 episodes of The Prisoner, both as number 2 voiceovers. We have another Omen connection as he appeared in the film as a monk. He continued to act into the 2000s and passed away in 2015 at the age of 92. The aforementioned Orso Maria Guarini stars in this episode as Luke Farrow. Born in Florence, Tuscany, Italy in 1942, he has a wide range of roles in mostly Italian productions, but has even crossed over into a mainstream American cinema in The Bourne Identity and Double Team with Dennis Rodman. He seems to still be busy acting as of 2023, with his most recent credits being $1 trillion and Holy Shoes. As Anna Davis, we have Lisa Harrow guest starring. Born in Auckland, New Zealand in 1943, she got a scholarship to study acting abroad at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, and which then transitioned into a membership of the Royal Shakespeare Company, in which she acted opposite Judi Dench in her first year. She's had many, mostly TV credits in between the stage roles. Along the way, she had a brief marriage and a child with Sam Neill, and has since married renowned whale biologist Roger Payne, and herself authored an environmental handbook called What Can I Do? She's still acting as of 2023, and you can catch her in such works as Snooze Time, It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet, and The Devil is a Woman. The music accompanying the narrations is Sweet Appassionata by Paul Bono and Serge Lanson. The track that plays during Luke and Anna's commune with the dead Arcadians is Picture of Autumn by Jack Arel and Pierre Dutour. That was the music that sounded kind of like the musical Hair. That's what I kept thinking of when I saw it. Anyway, that's trivia.
That's your trivia.
Brian, you got anything else?
No, I'm actually educated by your trivia because I don't know anything about these actors. I'm kind of glad that I wish they'd both turned up in this movie $1 trillion, like a reunion episode or something. That would have been amusing. I just like the title, $1 trillion, and now I want to see it.
That's a real Dr. Evil movie, yeah.
$1 trillion.
But it's glad to hear some guest stars actually are still alive 50 years later.
Yeah, it's kind of rare. I mean, I don't know. This show has a lot. There are a lot of guest stars who died between like 2020 and 2022.
Yeah, and then there's all the people that work with Joan Collins a few weeks ago.
Yeah, of course.
Nothing against Joan. They just all had their untimely demises for some reason.
It was my gag, not Matt's.
Yes, it was. I'm just reiterating Mark's gag. I did mention summary. Did you summary for us, or you?
Yeah, I
summary
did.
later. He's summarying now. Let's do it
right now.
Sweet.
Alpha is passing close to a planet called Arkadia when it suddenly comes to a complete stop and their power has started to drain. The Alphans touch down on the planet to look for clues and find that the planet is barren due to some kind of holocaust. They find husks of trees that are varieties that would be on Earth, and oh yeah, a cave full of human skeletons. On the cave wall, there's an ancient language that's related to Sanskrit, and crew member Anna is able to mostly translate the text. It turns out that the Arcadians took responsibility for the end of their civilization and were taking the seeds of life to begin again somewhere in space. While Koenig decides that Operation Exodus is a go again, Luke and Anna have what seems to be a vision of the Arcadians alive again and are transformed by the experience. Later, back on Alpha, Paul has reported that the power drain has stopped at 50%, and he is determined that they'll have a better chance on Alpha at 50% power than on Arcadia. So Operation Exodus is canceled again. Luke and Anna ask Koenig if they can have some supplies because they want to live on Arcadia. Koenig says it's out of the question, but soon Luke and Anna are taking Helena hostage in an attempt to force Koenig to let them make off with 3 years of supplies. Koenig agrees to their terms, even though it will doom them all, and Alan goes to make the exchange. Koenig reveals that he's traced Luke and Anna's eagle and is about to send several armed eagles to retrieve the supplies when the moon inexplicably starts moving again. Koenig radios Alan to hurry and make it to the moon before it leaves the area, and he and Helena make it back safely. Koenig decides they don't need the supplies with Alpha at full power. Luke and Anna happily watch the moon begin moving again, and they set out their new purpose to become the new Arcadian Adam and Eve. The end.
All right.
Mark, I just want you to know that while you were doing that, I searched for Picture of Autumn by Pierre Detour and Jacques Arel. I found it so I could play it very lightly in the background while you were reading your recap.
Nice.
That's the good news. Now, the bad news is that cool, like, choral disco porno part that they play in the scene is not until the last minute. So I had to, I kept like flipping through. I had to zoom up to about 4 minutes out of that 5-minute track to hit the sweet spot on that. So anybody who's looking for it, you can find it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So this is no comment on the quality of the episode, but I think for me, in perpetuity, this is going to be like, oh, that's the one with bad Freddie Mercury, right?
Freddie Mercurio.
Yeah.
He's Federico Mercury. Yes.
Federico
Sure.
Mercurio, yeah. That.
I wonder if it's the same thing with Freddie Mercury, where like that actor maybe like had like an extra tooth or something, because he just had that. I mean, that's just the thing, right? He just had that look like of having a really big
that
mouth
70s stash,
and
man.
that 70s stash. Yeah, just like I was thinking about Queen through most of this episode.
I like that you sort of immediately play with the idea of, look, I mean, whenever you introduce guest stars who have prominent roles, you know that they will probably be dead or abandoned by the end of the episode. That's just how it has to work out, right? And I like how they kind of played with the idea of, are they good? Are they bad? Are they misguided? What's going on here? But as soon as he got out that camera and got it right in her face, I thought, this guy's a creep and he needs to be away from Alpha and at least away from her. Yeah.
It's funny.
That didn't play very well in today's world. Yeah.
No.
That's like somebody taking their cell phone up to you and just going, hi.
Right.
Hi.
Exactly.
Like no sci-fi ever dared to imagine small cameras.
Right. They just got bigger and bigger.
Well, the comm locks, they had small screens, so they must have had small cameras too, somewhere.
It's true.
Behind the screen.
Yeah.
In typical sci-fi fashion, there's somehow magically a camera behind the screen so they can look straight into it.
Exactly.
I don't know about, well, this is my first time watching this episode. I definitely thought that the end of the episode was going to be that they went back to the cave and then turned into skeletons. Or something like that. I thought they were good. I thought it was like a trap planet, one of those.
Yeah.
We've seen, we've seen this in a lot of sci-fi where it's the planet.
I mean, you could say like season 2 of this is following the wrong storyline. If they actually are successful, because they're still on the planet at the end, things aren't looking good. But what if they successfully, terrorist Adam and Eve it, and that actually becomes a new humanity while Moonbase kind of just sputters off into the interstellar ether, I
mean, we all know that it's 50-50 chance that within 6 months they're screaming at each other that the seeds aren't working and all that kind of stuff. It's
and Anna's 5 months pregnant. Yeah.
They got a black thumb.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see things going well for them at all. Yeah.
We should have stayed on Alpha. Like that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm conflicted. I did really like this episode. I love like a sort of a step back in a slow like thought about stuff. And I do, regardless of whether I thought they were going to turn into skeletons or not, I liked that the ending was sort of optimistic. But man, the fact that they were able to take one hostage in a base full of 300 people and get everything they want, even though that was going to doom everyone. was
Okay, hang on. I comments about that, but I want to go back because I
Mhm.
got a comment about the first thing you said, and that is that I think the optimistic ending here is that these two are no longer on Alpha. So I think it is a much more optimistic ending for John Koenig and everybody else. And yeah, I look, go back in a few months, they're skeletons, no question about it. Um,
Yep.
I kept waiting for the moment that somebody either was going to like hop out of a cargo container or somebody's waiting in that Eagle with a stun gun. Like this would have been so easy to take care of before they even launched. And the fact that they didn't do that, I was surprised that they actually got Helena Russell that far into Alpha and actually to an Eagle and then actually took off. And I just sat there wondering, like, how far is this actually going to go? Like, at what point will there be a trick played? Because they could have taken care of this, but no, no trick played. They just have this incredibly long docking bridge that apparently is like being towed on the other side of that survey eagle to slip through. And it has its own lighting system, which is really cool. So that was an impressive bit of tech. Uh, and then actually let them go down to the planet. I kept waiting for the good guys to get the upper hand here somehow, and they botched it.
Yeah,
They got
this could
very
have
lucky.
been this would have been much more satisfying if it was just like they slip away and then
Right.
something happens. Because the thing is, it's never really explained. They're like, well, you don't understand. We have to do this, but it's like we don't really know why they're doing it. It's just that they're screwing over 300 people, and
And they're sloppy criminals. They're
yeah,
really sloppy. Like that whole bit about pulling the gun in main mission, you know?
yeah. That
Like,
I mean,
no.
we've seen Conan get the best of like immortal beings. You know, it's just like it's a weird sort of subversion of, but uh,
Well,
Yeah.
I wrote down quotes as he tells everyone his plan, right?
Oh, good.
Which are,
yeah.
I kill you, I kill everybody here. And then a minute later, I kill her. And that's when I write the note. I'm not sure that's his real voice.
I didn't know. I never knew this was this ADR until I saw the trivia. I had no idea it was
Oh,
just
I was having some
same
serious
Italian guy.
raging Mr. Herman moments,
Yeah.
you know?
When I was watching it last night, it finally dawned on me that this guy's ADR to death. He's walking away from the camera out into the middle of the studio, and you still hear him like he's right here in front of you.
But
So who's
I
in
wrote,
charge of security? There's not a security, officer. I mean, was Tuvok in charge of security? Was it
right,
Worf?
because nothing happened. Same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
Mark
like
III, I also wrote down, I think this episode has like the Koenig credo in its purest form. Did you get that
mhm.
quote?
You must do what I say.
Just do what I say. It's
Oh,
not
he says
even,
just do what I
we don't
say.
put the U on. We're making
Okay.
a much more direct command in that case.
That
Just do
that
what I
felt a
say.
little out of character. Yeah. By
Is
the way,
it?
going back to the whole thing about the security guards not being in main mission, but you have two security guards in front of the protein storage area who are just like kind of wandering, like shuffling around aimlessly. Is that their whole job out of the 300 people on Alpha who all rely on each other to survive anyway? Do you dedicate two people all the time to just wandering in front of that one door? Like there's no automated
And
security there. There's no, we're just
It's a
gonna
pretty
keep.
cool door.
and they still
That was a
didn't.
very
They failed.
complex door. Yeah, and they
Yeah,
failed. Yeah,
they completely failed, even though that was their only
yeah.
You
job.
had one job.
Also, it was weird to me that Dr. Matthias was yelling at Paul that his patients were going to die. Like, how many near-death patients are in medical in Alpha at any given time?
Every week, there's got to be at least one person in
Every,
ICU.
yeah, all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
He
a
had his
requirement.
Did anyone catch what the hell's going on here? It was a very Dean Lerner moment from Garth Marenghi. He was giving like full Dean Lerner delivery on that line, which I just loved that. Like I really
Nice.
the more we watch the show, more like this one really did slip in a lot to Garth Marenghi, despite the setting
Oh,
being very different.
there's no question that, I mean, I don't know if this, I mean, there may be a million things that inspired Garth Marenghi, but I'm sure this is one of them.
Yeah.
It's just as
Just in terms
that'll,
of plots and weird deliveries like that is seems to be like kind of a straight line to that show.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm glad you mentioned it in your trivia. Well, I think you mentioned the trivia or the description. I know that it came up already that this was like heavily into like a 70s kind of sci-fi. We mentioned the heavily 70s sci-fi aesthetics from earlier episodes, but in terms of theme, the fact that we're doing this kind of like Chariot of the Gods, Adam and Eve. Of course, even
Right.
Twilight Zone did Adam and Eve type stories way back when. But it had to come full circle here where the Arcadians settled Earth. Now Earthlings resettling Arcadia to bring it back to life, but they're not going to die. I thought it like it was shocking to me that Space 1999 hadn't already done this story, or they were going to just do it again week after week because it was such a popular trope at the time.
Well, at least it served a purpose in that we sort of have a reason why the moon has been going in this direction and constantly running into Earth stuff. It just must be some kind of thing where Arcadians left a failsafe on the moon that if the moon ever blew up, then it would head straight to Arcadia or something.
Well,
yeah, that's
it just account for all possibilities.
That's the thing with this episode. It feels like a culmination of all these weird things where we've had multiple episodes where there's this illusion that Alpha has a destiny. There was a reason for it getting blown out of the Earth's orbit. And, Johnny Burns had to ask it, okay, this is going to be the reason. And all those things happened to get them to this point. And then what? It's kind of like, I don't think they thought
Season
beyond
2,
that.
that's what.
Season 2. Yeah, exactly. But as you pointed out, the zeitgeist, of course, 3 years later, we have Battlestar Galactica. Same basic idea. Humans came from somewhere. Life here began out there, far across the universe. Exact same idea. And then the reboot of Galactica, I think, has more in common with this in that
Yeah, I was gonna
production-wise,
say
I think
maybe we should just quickly put a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert! In
Seen
case you haven't watched this 20-year-old remake of a 40-year-old show,
right?
Yeah, Ronald Moore has cited this episode as an influence on his reboot. So yeah, you're spot on with that.
Oh, that season 4 episode where they land on Earth and it's a nuclear
I haven't watched
burnout.
it yet, even though I know.
Sorry. Well, you got
I know everything
alert.
about it, but I haven't really watched it yet. I have a lot to watch, Matt. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Anyway, Mark, I know you don't care that much about being spoiled in this regard, but yeah, when they find Earth, it's not our Earth, it's the old Earth that's burnt out. It's Arcadia, basically. Like,
I mean, you told me about Picard's. You told me about Picard's body, but that wasn't really. I don't think that was a major spoiler. But
Ooh, I told you about Picard's body.
You told me about Picard's body.
Man, if only Ronald D. Moore's Galactica had landed at Earth in 1980. And if only they had been able to reboot that. That's what I wanted to see. Yeah.
See, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Just go back into the do like a whole just meta series. You go back in the first series.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
It's
like, fooled ya. Now we got bikes and we got Wolfman Jack.
Yeah, the only episode Galactica 80 I ever saw was the one that people said you should watch, which has nothing to do with the rest of the show.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Return of Starbuck, right? That's the one you watched. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Something that was a little more recent to this, though, that came to mind, not having to do with that particular concept, but Silent Running was 72, where Bruce Dern is the protagonist of the movie. I mean, the weird protagonist. He's not likable, but he kills his crew and runs off with the last of Earth's nature to try and preserve that. So it's kind of a, like another fanatic thing. But in that case, that's the protagonist of the movie, whereas we keep saying terrorist Adam and Eve because they're the antagonist of this episode. So
and that movie was kind of retroactively grafted onto Strange New Worlds with the whole domes and space thing. Not a long argument with Dom about that. It's like, it's a tribute. No, it's canon. No, it's a tribute. No, it's canon. I came to a compromise. It's like if you spoilers for Picard season 2.
Yeah.
I saw it.
If you consider there's a bad timeline and a good timeline,
Mm,
Silent Running happened in the bad timeline.
there you
Okay.
go. That's fair. That's fair.
You can
Nice.
make it kind of work, but yeah,
Okay,
they
but
made it clear.
does this mean that there is a Huey, Dewey, and Louie in the good timeline?
Oh,
In that video game, what
Yeah.
video game do they show up
Like-
in? When
They
we
show up
talked
in a
about on the
What?
Sci-Fi
too?
Sanctuary,
Kingdom
co-host,
Hearts?
it wasn't. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the wrong person to say, but yeah, that those
Huey,
images
Dewey, and Louie.
have been put into things as
Nice.
sort of
they're kind of
tribute.
like the original floaty robot buddies, only they waddled instead of
Yeah,
floated.
right. Right. They're waddling robot buddies. Yep.
Well, yeah, I found it really frustrating that it felt like these were basically not just terrorists, but they didn't really have much of an argument. They were just doing a lot of, you don't understand.
Yeah, they
We
just had a
have
really
to.
strong feeling.
Yeah,
And
just
yeah. And that actually that brings me back to a thing. So because I had to replay the their psychic communication with the Arcadian scene a couple of times. A, because I wanted to hear the music again, and B, because I'm just trying to figure out like what am I missing here? And they kind of like
yeah.
nod and smile, you know. But the important thing is that Koenig's narration plays over that, and he talks about it. And then they went into the cave and had this profound experience. Like, how would you know that? All you know is that they came back and became space terrorists and threatened you
Yeah.
because they believe very strongly that they needed to go back to Arcadia and condemn the rest of you to death. But his narration is
Yeah.
much more forgiving because he's like, yeah, they were transformed forever. I thought that doesn't fit with what you know in this situation.
And it's also third person omniscient narrator.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you guys think Koenig was just trying to cope with the fact that he lost 3 years of supplies?
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And then we
Well,
lost
it was-
whatever we lost to the Infernal Machine as well.
Yeah.
So they should
Yeah, that
be
was
doing
the whole
pretty
thing
poorly
with
in
that.
supplies at this point.
Was it that? Yeah, there was the whole thing was the Infernal Machine wanted a bunch of supplies, and Koenig just smashed a bunch of them just to spite the machine, and it wasn't really. I don't know. He's
Was
just one of
there a
those people.
drink on his desk while he was sitting there writing that journal entry, that whole episode? He's sitting in the dark in his office, in the dark.
Oh,
So he's trying to write in
yeah.
the dark. He's
Yeah,
writing his
yeah.
Was there a drink sitting there? Maybe that explains all of this.
It looked, yeah, maybe it looked like it. He
We
still
know he
had
likes
some
scotch.
of that, some of
As
that
I
hooch.
settle in with my brandy,
Yeah,
I'm
some
going
of that
to.
hooch that Dr. Bergman brought him, of course, you know.
It's
Oh yeah, that bottle's still
Speaking-
there.
moon wine,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Speaking of writing in the journal, though, there is, first of all, there's a lot of paper on Alpha, but there is an awful lot of paper in this episode. And not only does Koenig have his journal, but like obviously computer spits out a piece of paper every now and then. Cut to the Eagle, Dr. Bergman writing, not just writing on paper, but it's like two torn pieces of paper coming out of his notepad, and he's just still writing away furiously. And I kept thinking, for all the storage problems on Alpha and needing to have things like emergency rations and stuff like that, there has got to be a whole other storehouse with all the paper, pencils, pens, all the supplies that they need to keep Alpha in paper. Whereas now we know you just do everything on your digital device and don't have to worry about that. Doesn't take up room.
Well,
Unless you're on
you
Voyager,
know
you
what
have
they-
multiple pads lying
Then you have
around.
multiple pads. Yeah, a pad for everything. Of course. Yeah.
Well, you know what they say is that, well, what they say, I have definitely heard the theory that if 9/11 had happened maybe 20 years later, that the buildings might not have burned because everything was, it's just a bunch of offices that have been there for 20, 30 years. So it was just
Well,
like
the paper.
huge amounts of paper. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
burning of that paper was, what melted the steel
Contribute
beams.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean,
Interesting. Yeah.
that's,
Well, I noticed that Anna had a book that she just happened to bring with her to help her translate her Sanskrit.
Yeah.
But she also used a
Right.
calculator. And I'm trying to figure out, what do you punch into a calculator to translate Sanskrit?
Well, you can easily make a rough translation of Sanskrit with your phone now. So
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it was like they were trying to reach for a little technology there, but it, in hindsight, it doesn't really work out
Right,
that well.
right.
I guess it makes more sense than a big giant camera. Well, but then again, I mean,
Yeah, with a 200 millimeter lens on
where he's just
Yeah.
right up in her face. But what do you guys think? I've been noting that most times that we have a couple on Alpha that are doomed, it's a married couple, and
Yeah.
this couple is not married and they're not doomed. I have been noting that maybe the Andersons' marriage dissolving has been working its way into all the scripts.
Yeah, you've been noting that for a while. I like that observation.
Yeah,
You may
it's
be right.
interesting that the
Yeah.
I don't think they're romantically involved, but I'm not sure. Like they're
It's
maybe
like
just sort of
underscore, like, marriage sucks.
yeah,
Just
maybe
that the
look
directive,
at
just
it.
put that in all our scripts,
Yeah,
guys. Marriage sucks.
I mean,
yeah.
they
Look at
certainly
how
seemed
like
cornier after the Sunshine Druid Allegory of the Cave song, which you gave
look,
a proper name to, and I just spat out my weird note. So
picture
Sunshine
of
Dream.
autumn. No, but yeah, the it feels like the show is communicating that hey, look at John and Helena have such a sweet, nice relationship because they're not in a relationship.
stay single.
Stay single. Do not get involved. I mean, I don't know. Star Trek Next Generation kind of dabbled in that, even though I think everybody was just kind of doing whatever they did
We didn't have
on
the
the
doomed
side.
couple trope quite as much. So
No. Well, that was like a realistic future. It's like the realistic future is you see Troy on the weekends and then you go and just alien stuff.
actually, my least favorite thing in these tail end production episodes, at least, are
Mhm.
the voiceovers. I'm like, both
Yeah.
last week and this week, I'm like, you could have completely dropped the voiceovers and probably gained more from it than lost, you know?
Yeah, and like I pointed out last week's one with Helena had like weird grammatical errors in it even, and also was sometimes omniscient and sometimes not omniscient. I think there's sort of an issue with that here, right? Like Koenig
Interesting. Yeah.
sometimes knows exactly what's
Yeah.
happening. I don't know. You could chalk it up to burnout.
I mean, it's kind of like
I mean,
the omniscient narration is always a bad decision, except for
mhm.
the couple times it isn't.
Right.
Well, yeah, the movie Fallen, which I brought up a few times.
But yeah, this is one where it's like, yeah, I think just, like do it DVD mash style where you just take out the laugh track. I want to be able to take out the
Yeah.
narration from the
That
last
is
two
true.
episodes.
You actually don't need it here because yeah, everything is pretty much spelled out for you. I do like I really like the weird pacing of this one though. And what's cool about 1999 anyway is its pacing, at least in the first season. I like taking time to get into these moments and just the fact that like we open with this kendo sparring and it, which it goes on for a little while. That's fine. It kind of just eases us into it. It's just another day on Alpha, and this is what Koenig does in his spare time. And even in the time that it takes us to like get there, they said what it's like a 30-hour round trip to get from Alpha to Arcadia. So there's a lot of downtime on the Eagle itself. I think all of that is really cool. Maybe they felt like that was taking too long, so we have to drop in the narration to keep the audience tuned into what's going on. But I liked it as far as like that choice, just to let things sit for a while before you get to the next plot point, you know?
Yeah, I mean this is definitely proof that they didn't need the they could have stretched the budget out. They didn't need the super extravagant last budget of the last few episodes where I don't know. I mean, I loved Mission of the Darians, but it was sort of like look at all this stuff.
Right.
And the thrust of the plot was like these people are evil and then the survivors go and rise up against them and throw a guy into a DNA stash.
Well, we had the thing last week where at least Mark, you and I didn't seem to like Dragon's Domain quite as much as other people because it just drags, and then they put everything into 2 minutes of insanity.
Yeah, and that was just sort of a it didn't make a whole lot of sense.
This one
I
meters
think
it out better, I guess. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I mean it doesn't entirely make sense, but at least you could say that these people being total fanatics have some motivation. You know, if their motivation is I'm crazy and I have to get to this planet, is it makes sense on some level. It's just
Here-
sort of unsatisfying that they get away with so much before the moon just leaves. I mean, I don't know.
Here's one that had me scratch my head for 5 minutes. When we get Luke and his lady, think of your respective workplaces. Give me the two people with the widest possible experience. What does that
Of
mean?
what?
Like, I would tell my students that's too vague a request. It's like when they ask,
Yeah.
like, "Have you ever eaten food?" You know, or what I get on Saturday. What place do you like? I'm like, what? Please specify.
Or they
That's
two
not
people who are the most dissimilar, like they have to be widely
Oh,
knowledgeable, but each one has to be a completely different spheres of
completely
knowledge.
different.
That's why
Yes.
they hook up
Yeah.
so quickly. Opposites attract.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting to that.
Yeah, the translation expert and the
Oh.
photographer.
Computer's the ultimate matchmaker. We never knew.
Uh,
There was only one quote that I took down, which was Paul, cancel Operation Exodus.
yeah.
I I love that Operation Exodus is just this thing they pull out every once in a while and then just gets canceled every single time.
I
Yeah,
wrote
it seems like a very complicated thing to do anyway. So like once you
Mhm.
get started, what's the point of no return there? You know?
When you take
I
Yeah.
off.
I
Yeah,
assume
I guess so. I guess. Yeah.
yeah, I assume it's when Alpha goes dark or something.
They've even
Yeah.
taken off before. And in war games, they all left, and it's like this ain't gonna work. And they're gonna go
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
just
Well,
turn around.
I don't know if we'll get I haven't watched season 2 at all. I've seen some stills from it. It looks like it's gonna have big Neelix energy. I don't know if anybody can confirm or deny that.
We
Hmm.
will see it. Now I'm just looking at the quotes I wrote. I wrote prepare to freeze your ass off and attribute that to Paul Morrow, but I don't think he actually said that.
Mm, mm.
Someone says, "Don't worry, it'll get worse." Don't worry, it'll only get worse. That was also a very good quote, and I don't know who said that, but
I was gonna say the other one I wrote down was that where they're like we're trusting the word of fanatics, which kind of is interesting in 2024 as well, I guess, to think
Sure.
about trusting the word of fanatics.
Well,
Sure.
yeah,
Koenig
Yeah.
himself was a fanatic in though it was a collision course, right?
right, exactly, and because Koenig's always right, his plan to just fly into a planet worked just fine. But so did these people's, you know, maybe.
Well, like I
That's
Yeah,
said,
they
do what
were
I
we are
say.
led
The
to believe.
Koenig
We're
credo.
led to believe. Yeah, if you believe something enough, then you should do it because it's the 70s, and I suppose
If it feels good, do it. Yeah.
we're nowhere near the time of, maybe I shouldn't do whatever I think whatever the planet tells me. It's like
Oh,
I was remembered to which Voyager episode was it where the planet tried to trap Harry Kim because it had convinced him he was an alien. Uh, you don't have to tell me
Oh,
that
yeah.
one.
fortunate son.
That made
Fortunate
me feel
son.
like it was
Fortunate
fortunate son. You're right.
Yeah.
That made me think of a subversion of this. Like that's what I thought was going to happen was they were going to get sucked in because it was a trick, which we just weren't there yet. But you
That
know,
is interesting, though. It's a little bit of a surprise because this show doesn't shy away very often from a dark fatalistic ending. Like we don't always get that, but they don't, when it feels right, they'll just go for
mhm.
it. And I always liked that about this series. It's interesting that you kind of painted it like that about, if it feels good, they just go do it, because there is something oddly 60s, 70s about this idea that they can just like, yeah, man, we're just going to leave the big city behind. We're going to go, start an organic farm in this place where everything's been dead for 25,000 years. And you just got to let us live our lives, man. And that's, we'll be fine. We'll be better, in fact, than you losers, working for the man back on Alpha. Meanwhile, I did wonder, since everything had been dead for 25,000 years, like there are no insects, there's no bacteria, there are no other living things to help maintain a cycle of life. So yeah, they could plant stuff, but is there anything around to actually help that to grow? There's no organics left in the soil, I would think. So they might have a real problem there.
Let me take a
So
cue from the
maybe this
Martian.
is a fatalistic ending. Wait, oh yeah, they're
I
gonna
mean,
pull a Martian. Yeah.
Just
but
save your poop and use that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that'd be fun. Yeah, they could do a
Yeah.
season. They could do a whole season of that. No, I mean, well, Paul determined that they were better off on Alpha at 50% power than on that planet. So, however, it's sort of like they just retcon it to be it's okay because at the end, because Koenig does a narration says it's okay. But yeah, it does seem like they are doomed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was kind of
But
waiting for one
you're
final
gonna come back.
revelation. You
What's
know,
that?
I was kind of waiting for one final revelation, like to come to
Yeah.
Koenig or someone that would, make him think twice about, well, maybe this wasn't a bad thing, and then be philosophical about it. But that
Yeah.
moment didn't come. So
Maybe we should have stayed on that planet where the people were going to eat us,
Yeah.
I guess that's a spaceship.
Cut to 2 years later, that same table with the Arcadian skeletons, and there's just two more. Although I wanted to know why at that table, very dramatic to see with, the kind of sitting around the table like that. Why is there a skull like in the place where a plate would be for one of those Arcadians?
Things get
Because
dark
it's-
at the end of the line.
we just went full
Yeah.
cannibal at the end and just ate each other.
I guess so. I guess.
Well, you can see in that image there behind you, there's leg bones lying across the table. Yeah, he's just lying
See?
across the table.
Yeah. And there's that skull just right there. Like, well, we just
Yeah.
sat down to eat this guy's head and then we died in the process.
Well, they had to have one skull propped up so that Luke could stare at it in horror for a moment.
Exactly. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
I guess
I'm sorry, it was a weird thing where the skeletons looked more realistic the first time, but to me, for some reason, the second scene, the skeletons, they look very plastic. I
Yeah.
think they forgot
Yeah.
to do the lighting the right way the second time.
When they do that close up in particular, it looks really plasticky. Yeah.
Yeah. Should have used real skeletons like Poltergeist. And that wasn't really that out of the question for that. I guess not on a TV budget, but
Yeah.
I mean, they're in hospitals all the time, right? So doctors' offices.
Recycle the ones from Dragon's Domain. Just get the cobwebs off of those and
There
put
you
some
go.
cobwebs
man.
on them.
Might be what they did.
Yeah.
So now that we're on doom, gloom, and cannibalism, I'll lighten things up a bit with the style corner. Well, when Alpha's getting cold and they all put on those jackets, one I was like, man, that is 2 ticks from a members only jacket. And
Man,
why
I
does
want one
no
of those
one
so
have
bad.
why does no one have slacks to go along with it? Like
Yeah.
It's the first time we've
ever-
seen those
point.
silver jackets. I think it was the only time this
Yeah.
season we still.
Yeah, I
don't
assume
remember
they were
seeing
like
them
the
again.
thermal. They could have brought them on Death Star Dominion, I guess, but
Those are so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, they didn't match them with any bottoms, which I thought was a little weird.
I may note that everybody was doing really good at cold acting except for the 2 guest stars. They didn't seem to, maybe they were too fanatical
They were too
Didn't
fanatical,
care.
yes.
Yeah.
to do it. But there's some great classic like when the moon stops, everybody, jumps, lunges in a direction.
Oh, that was great.
stuff like
yeah.
Great
Not
stuff.
often you get to do that on a moon level.
No.
Starships, it happens all the time, but when we're at the scale of a moon, that was very impressive.
What do you guys think would make a moon stop? Like, how do you even explain that? I don't know. Since you're never really not moving in space, I probably thought about it too much. Like, it
It's
kind of
less
broke
of a
my
stretch than that planet disappearing.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you like that episode either, but maybe that's a bad
Well,
example.
Yeah, I mean, also they're, I guess, going at several times the speed of light or something. I guess they warped at some point.
Yeah, they've gone through like
No,
wormholes, but I mean, the moon itself. I mean, yeah, there's just if you're thinking
it
about trajectory and there's just it's
no,
nonsensical.
the speed, no, the whole light speed thing is just never. It's just glossed
Yeah.
over. They just
At the
never.
speed of plot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what
I
I
mean,
loved about the beginning of the episode and the end is that when they come to a stop, how many thousands and thousands of miles an hour must it be traveling with respect to Arcadia before it grinds to a halt, and they all just kind of lean forward,
Yeah.
and then when it
Yeah.
stops, they throw themselves back. And it's
Yeah.
like no one's smashed to bits. It's not like they're spun
Yeah.
against the wall. It's just like very gradual deceleration. Very
The whole
gradual.
place should turned into that cube of material from a few weeks ago where they're like, oh crap,
Yeah.
that's the eagle. It's now a ball.
Space
I did.
brain.
I mean, I did really think that it was a cool effects shot at the end where you see the moon like moving across the Arcadia sky for what it's worth. And then,
That was a
you know,
good shot. Earlier, I think the first time we see the moon passing by, you can very much tell that it's a still because the angle never changes. It's just like a
Yeah.
flat image moving forward.
Yeah.
But they got better with the effects a little later in the episode. Um,
Yeah.
How about that shot of the eagle approaching? It comes out of the sun from behind the sun.
oh, that is a great shot. Yeah, I love that.
I don't know if it
What?
makes sense. It looks like it's actually coming out from behind the sun.
Well,
That
I
may
think
have-
it's just from the camera POV. It's just like, okay, it's blown out by the
It's
sun.
blown out. Yeah.
But then you've
Yeah.
got enough of the eagle obscuring it. I thought that was a cool. I had to go back and rewatch that one a couple of times. That
The
was
thing
cool.
about the moon, though, is that whenever they show it in the sky of another planet, it's always got the near side of the moon facing this. So we will recognize
Always.
it as the moon.
Yeah,
And the
it's
far
like
side is always facing away, just like it was when it was
Yeah.
orbiting Earth.
has to be.
Yeah.
That's where they have the secret Iron Sky Nazi bases, right?
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wasn't that a plot point in that Buck Rogers pilot that we talked about many moons ago? Was that part of the moon was just a like kind of a wretched hive of scum and villainy?
I don't quite remember to be honest, but it sounds like it could track, sure.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That'd be cool. I mean, that's what would happen if the show ran for 3 seasons or 4 seasons. Eventually, it's like, oh, there's been a bunch of stuff on the other side of the moon the whole time. They're tired of
I
it.
want to see the shadow moon base from UFO. I think it's somewhere on the moon.
Yes.
I think they
there we
even
go.
kind of made it canonical in these newer technical manuals that come out that, yeah, the shadow moon base is like not far away, but they don't
There
talk
we
about
go.
it ever.
That's
That
what
would
they
be
need.
cool.
They
Yeah.
need a good recurring nemesis, like what was it on Sliders where they had the evil Sliders after a couple
Mhm.
of years, and that was sort
Mhm.
of the
And the Cro-Mags.
Chromags. That's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I
They
mean,
need
it could
some
be like the
Chromags.
South Pole thing where you have the nice new base that's up on stilts and then the old weird dome one that's slowly getting buried in snow.
They tore that one down, I think, in the end.
Oh, okay.
The old base
I
is
like to think it
gone.
was just oh well, maybe that's what they do with the shadow base. I don't know.
I think that's what the movie The Thing was
Well, if it
about.
was, yeah, if it was a government base, they would like leave no trace of it behind.
That was my one disappointment when because I got to watching the thing like really late, like probably like 3 or 4 years ago. I did the podcast for it, and yeah, in my mind, the whole thing with the whole thing, God, it's happening again, was in that
Mhm.
dome. But I was like, oh, it's not. It's just like somewhere in Antarctica. It's not like one of the primary. It's not Edmondson or South Pole.
Yep.
Was the impression I got, and it didn't detract from the movie. I just thought it would be cool to see like crazy South Pole dome stuff, which I like domes. Yeah.
I always thought it
I
was
mean,
like more like
who
McMurdo
doesn't?
than anything.
McMurdo,
Oh.
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, not Edmondson. Maybe that's what the South Pole one's called. Anyway,
Yeah, the South Pole is.
but I guess we put a few words. If you got some more observations, go ahead, do it. But because I have another question after the regular one today. But the first one, let's break this down into sci-fi dread. No, sci-fi fun and existential
Mhm.
dread. Excuse me, I got it wrong there.
I mean, other observations. I just got to say, we mentioned that the moon travels at the speed of plot. The other thing that works totally to the demands of the plot is radio range, because I lost track of how many times to say like, well, that eagle is going to be out of radio range, but then somehow it gets further away, and they're like, call that eagle and find out what's going on, and they do, and it seems perfectly fine. That happens throughout the series, but it particularly happened in this episode on more than one occasion. And And I just gotta say again, like I think pacing, style, like it, everything that I've watched for Space 1999 for this show and just on my own in the last couple of years, like it always drives home that if you don't buy the premise to begin with, you are going to have a very bad time with this show. But if you can accept at least enough of the premise to go along for the stylistic journey that it's very satisfying. You know, that's how I felt about this one. It was just weird enough. And I think that dovetails nicely into your existential question.
Well, I
Um,
will add to that it would have been interesting to have continued the show in the direction it was going at this time, instead of
Yes.
taking a
Yeah.
hard right when Fred Freiberger came along to replace Sylvia Anderson. It just
Yeah.
and Johnny Byrne had less to do with the next season, as Matt noted. So we don't get so much of the existential weirdness, the sort of mysterious unknown force which comes along and
Mhm.
does inexplicable things to the moon. They try to build on that, the guys who wrote the novels in the 2000s, at Powys Media, which I've mentioned from time to time. Sadly, they no longer publish Space 1999 books. Their license got expired or something, so they can't do it. And so they try to build on this mythology that the first season gave us, and then interweave second season, try to build their own little universe into it. But I can't remember what place this episode holds in that reimagining the canon and stuff. I don't know. But I think if we had 3 or 4 seasons, the show had a good chance of being kind of I don't know, J.J. Abrams, you know. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of was like the whole puzzle box thing before it was cool, you know, because each episode was just this mysterious thing that happened, then you go on to the next one. And I don't know if J.J. Abrams was ever influenced by this show or not. I know Ron Moore was. I mean, the Battlestar Galactica
Mm-hmm.
intros had montages at the beginning, just like this season of
Yeah.
Space 1999 did. That's
Yeah.
exactly where he
Yeah.
got it from. Um, but if it would have been satisfying, depending on the writers, they might have come up with a way of connecting all the dots in the way that these uh, novel writers did later on. But yeah, it's just kind of this optimistic note to depart season
Mm.
one with, and then we all sat around wondering if it was going to be a season two, and we heard there was. We all got our fresh issue of Starlog magazine. It was
Yeah.
really
There we go.
to see the pictures of
Uh-huh.
Catherine Shells. Oh, she's cute, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. What's with
this
the
looks great.
eyebrows?
Well, I think those came from the aliens and war games, right? They used the same little Rice
Yeah. Right.
Krispies on their eyebrows. You know?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I guess for this particular episode, I was thinking a 50-50 split with the dread and the fun. This seems like a pretty balanced one. I think in 75 or 76, whenever it aired, maybe the dread would have seemed higher then, but again, thinking of that reboot Battlestar episode, I'm like, man, that one has so much existential dread. This one is just a little more fun now. I mean, that was
Yeah.
that was a kick in the gut when that one first aired.
I mean, that's same for me. I say 50-50 because it's basically there is some tension. Like it feels like there's stakes, but then the stakes kind of go away. So it's hard to, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really believe that they would be without their supplies. It was just a question of whether Koenig was going to blow them up or outsmart them or something else,
Well, they
or they're
didn't get him
turning the
back, did they?
skeletons. No, but apparently they didn't need them, which don't feel like was very adequately explained. But
They might have replicator power or something, which they didn't
well,
have when
You can
yeah,
they
make
were at
more seeds if you
50%.
have more electricity. That's all, you know, that's just science.
yeah. You have to have over
Yeah.
50% power, and then it's fine.
There's some dread. The numbers going up is bad. I feel like usually in
Yeah.
sci-fi, it's like, oh, we're at 80% power. Uh-oh, now we're at 70% power. So when it first went to 50, I was like, oh, well, now they're doing better. Oh, no, they're not. The
Right.
bigger number is bad.
Right.
Kind of a
Yeah, that was
glass
in the
half empty.
IMDb trivia. It was like, actually, the power can't be drained because the drain would happen gradually. Anyway,
Yeah, it
uh,
seemed like going down would
Of
make more sense,
course.
but whatever. I mean,
yeah,
that's not one I'm really gonna like take over the coals or anything. It's just noting.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Right.
fine with the magical power measurements. That's totally fine by me. I'm not gonna I do wish I got sort of an explanation for why they didn't need 3 years of supplies once they had power, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Good luck to our scumbag Adam and Eve.
Well, they said they were closing down a lot of the labs and stuff. So I guess, like hydroponics, if you can power hydroponics, you can grow things. If you can't power hydroponics, you're not getting anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can grow a
Sure.
bunch of plants that'll make ghosts attack some guy.
Yeah, but also probably a few you can eat along with those. So
That too. As long as you don't try to communicate with the plants, they won't kill anybody.
Right.
I like when
John,
Luke and Anna go there, they drop the seeds all over the ground, and it's like, no, you're wasting this valuable, irreplaceable resource. And
they forgot to learn farming first. So that's why they're doomed. They didn't actually bother to
They're
learn
doomed because they're
anything
clumsy
about
and they drop their supplies everywhere. Okay.
There's just a voiceover that says, well, since Luke was a photographer and Anna was a translator, they had no idea how to plant seeds and thought they could just, Oh, well.
The computer picked, widest experience, barring agriculture. That was the only experiential thing that that was not included for both of them. Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to disagree with both of you. I think that there's a lot of sci-fi happening in this very clearly, a lot of high concept stuff going on in this. And the only level of existential dread, like the Alphans avoid the existential dread. They get their power back, the heat's back on, they can put those cool silver jackets back in the closet. And look, there are 2 fewer mouths to feed. So they're going to be all right. I think the existential dread is when we check in on our 2, what did you call them? Scumbag Adam and Eve?
Yeah.
If you check on them in, 6 months to a year, that's the only existential dread. But here's the fun part. Nobody's ever going to check on them. And they're going to forget about them on Alpha in a matter of hours.
along with Dr. Bergman and Paul Morrow.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, this is sci-fi, but I mean, come on, dude. You're going to be plagued by incest for at least thousands of years.
Yep.
Like that just isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
But
it's a bad situation for them no matter how you slice it, but we're never going to know.
No. Well,
so I think they aired The Last Enemy last because it said last, and that
did happen. Yes,
that's a bad last episode.
It should have been Last Sunset.
I think the Last Sunset,
because it's a sunset. It's the end. It's the last sunset. It's the very end. They should have saved that one for last.
Exactly.
That's still also, I think Last Sunset is a lot like this episode, but kind of better because you see just like all of the Alphans kind of fall into this thing in the Last Sunset. I don't know, and I'm fond of that episode partly because they just didn't have any guests and they just let the cast just flesh themselves out.
Best Paul Morrow episode probably by far.
yeah, for sure. But it's but this does sort of give us a quote unquote trajectory. I guess I could think to myself, well, it's kind of scary that it seems like Arkadia might have been their destination and now they're going past it. But
it is a plot point in the end. Like maybe because I'm used to seeing more puzzle box TV, now I thought it was going to be more profound a hit. Where now it's like, well, we're on our way, and that was interesting, I guess. Which is like a standard episode of TV now.
Yeah.
Well, didn't Aura say in Collision Course that their destiny is to spread themselves among the stars? And so like Arkadia is just like the beginning. Maybe they were gonna like drop 2 people off on every planet they pass.
There we go. That's a good plan. Yeah.
Maybe.
We've had a lot of your crew.
I would have been fine with them. Some of the guest stars could have just gone off. Like I said, the one guy, Winters, could have gone off with Gwent in Infernal Machine.
You want to have gone off with Gwent, don't you, Mark?
Yeah, kind of.
Gwent. Okay,
I do. I mean, I do. But he'd just kill me in the end, or just yell at me all the time. But they could have dropped some people off instead of just killing them off. But this show's usually kills people off, and I think maybe it's just kind of refreshing that these people didn't have to just die, even though they're probably the worst people that they've had as guest Alphans, because everybody else that they've had as guest Alphans who were kind of evil were possessed by something, right? They're just okay, well, maybe they are possessed by something.
They're
maybe
possessed. Yeah,
Because at some point,
lose Jackie Crawford and his mother, they actually survived the experience.
oh yeah, that's true. They did survive, even though, well, that was a weird thing where he was a man for a while, but he probably won't remember that.
It was full-grown Julian Glover for a while, then he
Yes,
shrank again. It was weird.
indeed. Well, hopefully he doesn't remember any of that. But yeah, there was at some point there was a conversation. I think it was between Helena and John where somebody says like they know what they're doing, and somebody else says, "Do they know what they're doing?" Because they're obviously possessed by weird skeleton magic,
Druids. Yeah.
which does not affect anyone else. Because I guess nobody else hung out in the cave long enough.
But yeah,
But
I'm having a look at the entire season 1 run here, and I am pretty much thinking, yeah, Last Sunset probably should have been the last one. And it's, man, it was in the first half of the production.
Wow. Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
do you see where it aired?
When? Oh, where?
Like where in the order?
Oh, sorry,
It's like
airing order. I'm not. These are in production order. So
I am after we've gone through this whole season, I'm kind of a mind that they did a good thing spreading them out a little bit, because doing it in production order, we have seen just sort of the money go up and down, which is, you
It
know,
goes up
maybe
towards the end a lot. Yeah.
a little immersion breaking, I guess.
I guess that was the other thing here. Like the last few episodes have had so much bling behind it, and this one has slightly less. So Last Sunset has enough bling at least, right? And imagery and things. Where this does have cool stuff. It has cool jackets. It's got skeletons. I'm not saying it doesn't have that, but compared to the Mission of the Darians or the Infernal Machine and Space Brain, I mean, there's less to look at here.
It's right in the middle of the airing order, pretty much. Last Sunset is, I'm sorry, 17th.
Oh, okay.
But
But
you
much
know,
later in production though, yeah. I think
anyway,
I've bopped through all of my notes. Any other final thoughts you want to?
I don't think did Brian get to give a percentage?
Oh yeah, Brian,
Oh,
did you want to go with the new percentage or just
um, I am kind of leaning towards that 50-50 number because I can't really decide. The dread was for the Alphans survival, of course, but again, but um well, you were going on about Anna and Luke being the only ones affected by this. I think everyone who was on that planet may have just been a little freaked out by the whole revelation about the genesis of humanity being there. And so I think maybe that factored into their thoughts when Luke and Anna kind of went off the range.
Yeah.
It might explain why they were giving them a tiny benefit of the doubt. I mean, they certainly did not want them doing what they were doing, but I think deep down they probably thought something happened on that planet. And we know from what we've learned that these were our ancestors. And so were they just acting crazy spontaneously, or was something guiding them? Again, the whole mysterious unknown force, something's guiding the Alphans' destiny. And so I don't know where
triggered
to
some of
land
that
on that
junk DNA?
exactly.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that the
Of
idea
course,
is scary.
the whole idea that humans arrived here like 25,000 years ago is scientifically ridiculous, along with all the
Yeah.
trees, all 40 types of trees they found. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have no proof that there were ever trees on Earth before 25,000 years ago. I mean, the science is
Yeah.
absolutely horrible, which is why you don't see these sort of Von Daniken sort of Battlestar Galactica plot lines very much anymore. In fact, in the reboot of Galactica, again, not to spoil anything, but I thought they're going to flip the table on that and have uh instead of them coming to Earth in the past, they were going to reveal that Earth was the origin of human life, and that they settled Kobol like hundreds of thousands of years ago, and then Kobol settled as well. And that would be the way it worked in reverse when they finally came back and found, oh, Earth is the real home of humanity. Dun, dun, dun. And that would have made perfect sense, but Ron Moore didn't go that way.
Yeah, I had hoped for the same thing. But yeah, because every time they do this in a sci-fi show, like people are only sort of stunned by it for like a minute. Like, oh, by the way, we're upending everything we know about the origins of humanity. Wow, that's an incredible discovery. Okay, on to the next thing. I guess we're leaving here. And that's, I mean, Star Trek, even in what was the one where they're The Chase, right? It's like we upend everything about humanity because all humanoid life came from this one place. And then it's never mentioned again. We're just like, yeah,
On to
that's
next
just
Although
week's
this
adventure.
episode kind of explains the fact that all the humanoid aliens they've met throughout the galaxy, the universe so far, are humanoid. Because maybe they're all Arcadians in the end, right? So it kind of retcons that a bit.
Yeah.
At least sort of contributes to that. But
oh, I can't wait for a Star Trek and Testament of the Arcadians crossover. That's what I need. Yeah.
They just the Enterprise goes to the planet and there's just like two like feral insane people trying to grow plants,
throwing seeds all over the place.
But that's something. But that was something I always bring up about the movie Prometheus, like that it reaches Prometheus. But I've brought up Prometheus in this podcast a lot because there's a lot of Prometheus like stuff in Space 1999 where it's just it reaches for we're going to show you the origin of all life, and it sort of then just turns into kind of a schlocky movie with giant murder people in it, and nothing's really it is trying to explain something, but it doesn't really explain anything because that's just so much of a reach. Like that's something I don't think that you should really reach for that unless you're going to make that your entire movie or film or
lots of big ideas kind of dropped on the ground as they they go along. This is huge.
Just like seeds.
Let's go find something else.
Exactly.
Seeds that will never be planted and never grow.
Or black goop from the engineers who drink it and then they dissolve and so all life starts from that, or it's kind of the same things. And
I thought that was a cool scene, but it was just sort of like really gonna Alien in my mind is like a perfect film, like a rare perfect film, and this guy is now just gonna be like, you know what, origin of all life, let's go. Like really, like
one of the biggest bugaboos for me with Prometheus is just that I think it's in a contender for the best looking science fiction movie ever. So it's
I
like
saw it
it's
in
like
3D. It was like amazing in 3D. They shot it in 3D.
So I'll give them 10 screw ups, I guess, which they at least come close to that. So
I didn't like dislike that movie really, but it's sort of like most of the criticism is fair that I see of it, like that Charlize Theron didn't just walk out of the way of the big circle or whatever it was.
Well, it's like the deer in the headlights. Sometimes you just don't know what to do, right? Like when the bicycle was coming for me a few days ago, I didn't know if I should go left or right, and I just decided to see what they did. I didn't get hit, so I guess it worked out.
Okay. Well, you did better than she did. Anyway, well,
we will wrap this one up, I guess, then. And then, unless I'm interrupting someone's thought. Okay. Well, hey, John, we're pretty real time. This is next week's episode. If you want to tell folks what's going on with Mission Log these days.
Right on. Let's see here. We're nearing the end of season 4 of Voyager. Let's see. We're about to record Unforgettable. So maybe is it Vis-a-Vis that comes out next week? Or maybe that comes out this week. Can't remember. But yeah, one of those episodes coming out soon. So hop on over to podcast.roddenberry.com for Mission Log and Trek Files. Oh, and we've got a couple of bonus episodes of Prodigy and the Orville coming out this week based on our content that we did for Virtual TrekCon. So thanks to the folks at VTC. We'll have Bonnie Gordon interview dropping and a Doug Drexler interview dropping.
Well, Brian, you got anything?
I don't know. I guess I got a promotion here, so that's cool.
Yes.
What did I call it?
Your new promotion.
Double secret semi co-host or something like that. I had to put the double secret in there.
Official co-host just in time for season 2.
Except when I have a dentist appointment or something, then I won't.
Except when he has a dentist appointment. I don't know. Maybe I've missed one episode of this, so all's fair. But anyways, aside from that, you can find other podcasts and our Podcastio network at patreon.com/Podcastias. You can throw some money for server bills. Check out Films and Filth, Citizen Kane of podcasts. Both of you guys have been on those as well. Brian, you got something?
He's pointing at
I'm
Podcastio.
pointing at the
Oh,
Podcastio
right.
sign. I had
Never
to take
mind.
down the Mission Log Live sign and put up the Podcastio
Word. Awesome. We got Lucas Pokemon Game Show, Hyrule Field Report, Occult Disney, and season 2 of Space 1999 coming up. Time Enough podcast, also Twilight Zone.
Just
right
for listeners, fret not. We're taking a short break before season 2 because we can, and that way we don't drive ourselves insane. But we will be back in April with season 2, and somewhere in there we will have a powwow about all of season 1 and get into that before too long.
Yeah, get ready for the Metamorph. Wonder who that is.
It's definitely got Brian Blessed, and that's all you need to know.
Oh, nice.
That's it.
Well, for now, stay Arcadian. Okay, there's a pause.
All right.
That's a nice sign off. Stay Arcadian.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Stay Arcadian, dude.
that would have been Victor in season 2 because, like I said, he just mellows out and practically becomes Austin Powers by the end of.
Man, yeah, they should have just left.
John. I think Guardian of Fury Victor is my favorite because he's just so chill, and Guardian of Fury Helena too. Oh, John.
That's the beach. One of several beach episodes. Somehow.
While we're all sitting here, I'm also doing a little break between seasons of the Twilight Zone, and
cool.
John, actually, if you want to do it in March, you can have in thy image because Brian said he wanted the one with Scotty, which was the first episode, but that's actually the third episode. So
okay,
we crossed the streams a little bit, but
for no reason other than James Doohan has a 10-second appearance.
I've never seen any of it.
I want to do Death Ship because that's a Richard Matheson one, and it's actually a pretty interesting one. But I don't know.
For that. I still need to bring my list from work. It's on my work computer, which is not.
I was going to ask you, where's your list, man? I can never find out what's going on until.
Yeah. Well, I can't either because I have it on my work computer and I never printed it out.
Okay, well, from memory, tell me everyone in season 4 of Twilight Zone you've gotten so far. You got John, you got me.
Mike's up for a couple.
Nice.
Dorian, who's been in some. Mark's up for a couple, of course. Well, Andrew, yeah. I mean, it's been, like there's only 18 episodes, so there's like no surprises for guests because I just plugged in all the regulars, right? So,
all right,
it's everybody regular. One of the reasons.
Oh, sort of a Russian roulette theory of podcasting. Just grab somebody.
That's why I had Amisha on this week because I'm not going to fit anyone into season 4, so I might as well get her on.
She hasn't been on quite a long time.
That's she was on the season 1, so. I was like, I should
got a lot of one-shotters in that podcast. A lot of interesting people come and go, like Tilly and Susan and who else? Enrique or Enrique?
I'm not remembering what you're.
Andrew's friend, I think. Right.
Oh, Henrik. Yeah,
Henrik.
Yeah,
I mispronounced it.
He's just someone.
The one with the mustache.
Yeah, I can never remember it either.
No, he I guess was having some kind of issues and was not on the availability list for a little while. So I think it was his dog though, not him.
Wow.
I'm trying to think who else was. I was looking at the list a while ago of all. It's probably the most diverse guest list since Sci-Fi Sanctuary.
Yeah. I mean, in years past, I got a lot whacker because it's like the Ghostbusters 2 thing where Bill Murray has the Secrets of the Universe show at the beginning, right? Where he was just bringing on the most insane people. That was my theory when we started, but culture has shifted so much in the past couple of years that you can't really do
Get
that
the
anymore.
Craziest podcaster.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
like 5 years ago,
plan,
you could have had 5 years ago, you could have had like the Capital Shaman on your podcast. And that would have been great, but now you can't really do that,
It's like you even want to be on like Peter Venkman would be like, I don't know, he'd be a problematic character in 2024,
Oh
probably.
yeah. When we were watching Ghostbusters with the family a few years ago, it's like, yeah, Venkman's not. Bill Murray's great, but Venkman's not aging so well here.
No.
Well, you have the fast rising stars of John Arminio and Sean Bison. Those guys are available, I imagine. Jessica hasn't been on in quite a while.
Yeah, there you
She's
go.
up for
Yeah.
on the other one. She's up for Doctor Strangelove before too long. So she
Nice.
we will be
Oh.
trying at
And
least
you had
contact her.
Ashley on a couple times, and
Oh, can I have the one where Dennis Hopper's a Nazi? Somebody else got it.
I don't remember. Is that in 4 or 5? I guess that's in 4.
4.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have
He's
to.
alive.
Maybe I'll try and remember to do that work today.
Okay.
why don't you call
Cool.
Tommy Chong
No
again?
pressure.
I'd love to have Tommy Chong come back.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was.
Then there's this guy, Norman C. Lau. Maybe he's available.
Oh yeah.
He's good. Talk about insane. Yeah.
There's a few season 5ers that I mean, like just this one he was going to come on, but was the first time was December when he was traveling. Then I think his wife was having surgery last
Yeah,
week.
she
Yeah.
just did on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, when he did Dragon's
Yes.
Domain because he wanted that, but that was like, well,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
But that's why I'm doing the month break because we're like Mission Log was for a while just like right at the edge, and I'm like,
Oh,
well,
dude,
we don't have advertisers, so we can buffer a little.
Yeah.
You know?
It's better. It stresses me out that if we miss a week, then we miss a week, you know.
So we will do the
Yeah,
Metamorph
buffer.
soon, but
Yeah.
we'll just try and get like 4 or 5 ahead, and then it'll be less
Yeah.
stressful. But yeah, I guess I'll be getting, I got more in podcasting. It's like I have a Rolodex of people that I enjoy talking to and make for good podcasting because you got to start by just inviting anyone because you're going to have some
Exactly.
weird episodes where like you don't click, But I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I have like a list of 20 names, all of whom clicked to a certain extent. So just do that.
Do you have a
Love doing it,
physical
man.
Rolodex?
No,
I was working on.
I would be
working on a
impressed
TV
if you did.
series.
That would
it's
be
a
very
Rolodex
cool.
of the mind.
There was such a
I
cool.
just was
like-
sitting on main mission desk right here. There's a Rolodex right.
It's more paper.
it's
There,
paper, more paper.
paper. Exactly.
Uh,
Gang, I got
Well,
to split because I got to
okay.
go do something in the other room, and it was fun. I will talk to you all
Thank
later.
you as
Thanks for
All right,
always.
be good.
And
Till next time.
take care.
I'm gonna have
Bye.
to put on a suit and go to work too. So
Stay
All
Arkadia.
right.
I
I'm
have
gonna
gone
go
to
to
work in
sleep.
this before, but not today. So
Wow. All right.
I'm
man.
going
It
to
was
work
Halloween.
in this. The cool
Hell
thing about
yeah.
these shirts is they're kind of very subtle cosplay because almost no one would recognize this as a
Mm.
Space 1999 shirt.
Yeah, I realize I tend to go around with dark pants, dark shirt, and I'm like I'm kind of doing a Han Solo cosplay like all the time. And then I have my money belt thing. The money belt's what really puts it
The
over
thing
the
that's
edge.
missing from this is there's no zipper down the sleeve like in
So,
Space
My
1999.
normal look is
You could
dark
probably
pants,
sew one of those in. Or
navy
two of
blue
them.
pants, navy blue shirt, and then I got this money belt thing. So if I got that,
Nice.
it pretty much
Wow.
looks on full.
Holy
Empire.
crap,
Is
yeah.
that a fanny
So,
pack?
kind of.
Fanny packs
It's
kind of
one of
came
those
and went.
things-
I liked fanny packs, but then they became very much out of style, and
It's more of a
nobody
crotch
caught
pack, I
dead
guess.
wearing one anymore.
Yeah. That was an expensive Italian leather one though. So hey.
I mean, our friend Andrew had one of those in junior high when I met him, and he was just had one
Vision
because
streetwear. Yeah, I remember.
he thought it was cool that he was always reaching into his balls, and I basically copied him and also got one because I also thought it was funny that I was reaching into my balls to get things.
So I've never gotten past that, I guess.
Well, yeah, eventually I stopped. Well, I had my wallet chain phase and all those other things, but I'm going super minimalist now, unfortunately. I have the
Yeah,
thinnest
the older you
wallet.
get, the more minimalist you get.
I had the whole thing where a doctor told me, "Hey, you can't keep a wallet in your back pocket anymore because
Oh,
it's fucking your back up." I was like, okay, yeah.
I've never
I-
stopped putting my wallet in my back pocket. No one's told me that.
It'll kind of mess your back up.
I
but,
never
mean, if
ever
it's
put my
small
wallet
enough
into my
that-
back pocket. I don't like sitting on it.
Well, my back pocket's
Yeah.
usually high enough up that I'm not actually resting on it. So
Okay, maybe my posture is the issue. But yeah.
So I guess right before I hang up, next week, this time, if y'all are cool for it, you want to go ahead and do that season 1 wrap up?
Sure. I think.
yeah, who else can we drag in on that?
I don't know. Maybe I'll see what's up with. Well, yeah, I'll
I'm
send
not
out a few
100%
invites.
sure what I'm doing next week because, like I said, there's usually a doctor's or dental appointment or something, a veterinary appointment.
Well, now
They
we're at
fall
the
on
point
Monday
where
for
we
some
can
reason.
also reschedule a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Which we just couldn't do the past few weeks. So
Yeah.
But now we got more wiggle room, so that's nice.
Yeah,
So
I
if
don't know.
that's the case, we can wiggle. But let's tentatively put it as same time next week, and if we have to wiggle, we'll wiggle.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm just getting a thing now where I guess it's like this morning is when I do the spaces, my Friday mornings when I do the Disneys, and then one of the other days is between a Sci-Fi Sanctuary and or Twilight Zone. So I'm
Yeah.
mostly thinking of this as the space day now.
Space
But if
day.
we do need to change it, we can. So
Did you say Sci-Fi Sanctuary? I didn't think you were doing sci-fi thing. Or did you
I
in
think
Films
he
and
meant
Filth?
Films and
I
Filth,
meant Films
maybe.
and Filth.
Films
Yeah,
and
we're doing
Sanctuary.
Films and
Sci-Fi
we're
Sanctuary.
Filth.
we're doing we're doing Inglorious Bastards tomorrow, and I've like ordered a Blu-ray that is not here yet. I'm just like
My Blu-ray started skipping, and I just watched
so
half of
frustrated.
the. We all had this conversation yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you-
Yeah, but yeah, it's true. We did, but
But I watched the first half of the movie since then, so I did that too.
I still have
it's
to come up with a
President's Day,
good
so it's not
sci-fi
here.
movie. I want to do sci-fi movies and resurrect Sci-Fi Sanctuary just for shits and giggles.
I mean, I think that would be fun. I don't know. But also, I mean,
But I
there are
need Luke
sci-fi
because it's Matt
movies.
and Luke.
Yeah,
Right.
of course. I don't know. There's some fucking sci-fi's coming out. I mean, you missed Dragon Wars D War, which we
I
ended up
caught
really
that
liking.
on the feed. I haven't listened to it yet.
Oh my god. We really liked it actually. Or
Oh,
at
cool.
least Luke and I really liked it.
I liked it. I just didn't like it as
Yeah.
much as you guys. I thought it was a
Yeah.
perfectly fun movie. There was nothing
think
to
we-
actually dislike.
It's
I
funny
think we,
because
like,
I've
settled-
looked into it and like I thought maybe there would be a bunch of reevaluation or something like that because a lot of times movies like that have that. No, people just fucking hate it. It's a genuinely disliked movie, which is funny to me.
I think we'd settled on Zardoz, right? Is the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
Oh,
need
yeah,
to
God,
do
yeah.
Zardoz.
that's one. No, that's one that was always on the short list for the Sanctuary, and we just never got around to. So,
We
I
could
mean,
maybe drag Earl in on that too. I think
yeah.
he or John or one
yeah.
of those guys would love to do that.
I mean, I thought about doing that as my birthday pick for this year, but I've sort of gone a different direction now after making a list of potential birthday movies that ended up being like 100 movies long because I'm a crazy person apparently.
And you're gonna live to be 140. So
I
Yeah.
don't think too hard about the birthday picks. I mean, hence the Country Bears.
I
think
am.
that-
Well, no,
I
that makes
maintain that was a
perfect
good
sense
pick.
because you've name dropped it a bunch of times. So it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
perfectly like you had
Country
your
Bears.
narrative, But I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna like read off some of the movies without. I'm gonna skip the ones that are almost definitely going to be chosen. Okay, Sound of Music. We're not doing that. Filth, which I just thought would be funny.
Just because of the name.
okay.
Total Recall with the director's commentary. Battle Royale, Face Off, First Blood, Roar, Primer, Death Race 2000, Hardcore Henry, City of Lost Children, Sorry to Bother You, The Green Knight, Videodrome, Beyond the Black Rainbow, Punisher, Warzone, Shoot 'em Up, Seventh Seal, Holy Motors, Annette, Four Lions, Death of Stalin, You Were Never Really Here, The Dark Crystal, The Decline of Western Civilization, God of Cookery, After Hours, Super Inframan, Akira, Night Watch, The Raid 2, Entheron. Oh yeah, that's all of them. Yeah, it's just I'm just
That is
started
a list.
dumping. I started dumping movies I love onto a list, and it's like
Those are all when I look at Films and Filth, I try to find one that I've always wanted to see but never got around to. And I think the one I picked was Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, because I'd never seen that film. That's
I've
a
never
good
seen
reason.
it.
Good reason to go pick that one as a possible episode
I
because
think we have a
I
name
think
attached
Chuck.
to that one.
I think my neighbor Chuck called that one because he wanted to. He also wanted to do Captain America, which was somebody else had called that.
That's
which
John
was John
Arminio.
Arminio. Okay.
Well, I definitely want to do
Well-
one of the Avengers films because I do Avengers related things all the time on this show. So.
Yeah. Well, those don't
Yeah.
have any guests attached at the moment, so that's.
And there's only two. There's like Endgame and then Infinity
Which
War,
one do
I
you
think.
prefer?
Oh, I don't know.
Give
I
them
guess
both of them.
stick your
Whichever
name
one
on
They're
it.
comes
really
out
close
both.
they're close together. Give them both of them. Who cares?
Okay, sure. I'll take both of them. My
Okay.
148.
Because
What's
I can
the word I'm looking for?
officially add a name to that one, no problem.
To,
Why does this?
Oh, now you're
leech-
adding names? Okay, he's adding names right now, guys. Quick.
This list says Gun Day, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. What is Gun Day? What does it say that?
Gun Day
That's
is some
weird.
movie. That yeah.
Oh, it just like got skipped. Okay.
I liked how Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse went from not being on the top 100 when you created the list a year ago to being like in the top 10 for a while. I don't know if it's still there, but it
Oh,
shot way.
Into the Spider-Verse is on the list. Across
Oh,
is
it
not
is?
because it wasn't out yet. You know, we're doing.
Yeah,
I think we're
Across is
gonna do
Oh.
not out.
both. When we get there, we'll do both.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
So
I just remember
Well,
seeing
we
it on
might
the
have to do
list and
3.
then, wow, that's a
maybe,
top 10 movie.
yeah. It sounds like the third one's being delayed though.
Who knows? But this will be what, at least a year from now? I might. I'm misreading this, aren't I? I can't.
We'll see.
I can't process weeks.
Okay, I'm gonna end the recording, and yeah, and actually, I do need to go now.